Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Elis Adelle and I'm an intuitive and evolutionary astrologer and tarot reader. And today I'm here to talk to you about the new moon solar eclipse in Libra that is happening on October 2nd or 3rd, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is a very intense energy. So this is a very powerful solar eclipse that we are moving into for multiple different reasons. But one of the main reasons is that this is the last solar eclipse on the Libra Aries axis, which we have been working with for the past 2 years or so. So because of this is a very potent kind of closing out of a cycle. And also because the full moon that accompanies this new moon eclipse, so the following full moon in 2 weeks on October 17th, 18th, is the full moon in Aries, which corresponds to that total solar eclipse that we had in Aries back in April. If you remember, back in April, this was kind of a big deal. It was a total solar eclipse that was seen across much of the United States. And it was a very kind of big deal, that eclipse. So not only is this new moon eclipse closing out this cycle with the last Aries solar eclipse, it's also closing out this cycle for the next 10 plus years for us on this Libra Aries axis with the nodes of the moon. As in January, the nodes will be switching to the north node in Pisces and the south node in Virgo. So with that being said, let's dive into some of the aspects. So this is a new moon, which means that the sun and the moon are together. That's what creates the new moon. And because it's an eclipse, it's very near one of the nodes, in this case, the south node in Libra. We also have, along with the south node, the sun and the moon, we have Mercury and Black Moon Lilith also there together with the sun and the moon. And this adds a very interesting combination of energies because whenever we're dealing with a new moon, it's an initiation of a new cycle. And when we're working with the south node, it's about releasing, it's about letting go, it's about moving away from something. It's about leaving behind some pattern or system or way of being that no longer makes sense for us on our soul's evolutionary journey. When we add in Mercury and Black Moon Lilith, we add in a very interesting combination of Mercury with our rational mind, the part of our mind that is very like frontal lobe, cognitive, rational, 1, 2, 3, ABC, the part of our mind and our psyche that helps us communicate and plan and organize and make sense of our day-to-day 3D reality with our brain and with our capacity to rationalize and organize and think. So that's Mercury. And then we have Black Moon Lilith, which is, I want to say, just the opposite of that Mercury energy. It's the part of our psyche that I would say has more to do with like that back of the brain stem kind of energy. It's a lot more primal and primordial. It has to do with that dark, feminine, chaotic kind of energy. It's good to note that it's not an actual body or entity in the sky, but rather it is a mathematical point that is called the moon's apogee. So when we look at the moon's rotation, when we look at the moon's orbit around planet Earth, the moon's apogee is the point in that rotation that is the furthest from the Earth and that is the darkest. So Black Moon Lilith spends about 9 months in every sign, and she is currently in Libra. So she is bringing forth parts of our psyche that have to do with our one-on-one relationships, our values, our personal values, what we find to be important, and how we seek balance and how we relate to the concept of balance in our own personal lives. And she's bringing forth the shadow, subconscious, unconscious, taboo aspects that are related to those. So this new moon could be bringing up lots of different shadow aspects when it comes to the shadow of Libra, which is that over-sacrificing of the self in order to maintain relationships, right? That is one of the biggest dark sides of Libra, is the overextending of the self, over-sacrificing of the self, diminishing personal opinion or position in order to keep the peace, in order to keep the harmony, in order to keep things flowing and chill and harmonious and nice and pleasant, right? That's what Libra is so good at, is in keeping things diplomatic, keeping things harmonious, but usually at the cost of their own opinion or their own true desires. So this new moon is bringing to light situations, patterns, habits, cycles, imprints in our psyche that have up until now maybe not been quite noticeable, maybe not been so obvious, maybe not been quite at the forefront of our perception. And now with Lilith and Mercury here together with the Sun, Moon, and the South Node, it's like we can really bring into that frontal lobe, that frontal cognitive part of our thinking rational mind, we can really see the imprints and the patterns that have been kind of lurking in that back of the brain stem, lower brain, kind of instinctual, hidden, like almost a reptilian, I want to say, part of the brain that's like this very unconscious part of what keeps our systems running, right? And so there could be these patterns in relationship that it's like all of a sudden you can see them. All of a sudden it's coming into awareness that there are certain ways of being that we need to let go of. And it's important to note that this isn't just limited to one-on-one relationships, although this may be primarily what's coming forth. It's great for you to look at where 10 degrees of Libra is in your birth chart to see what house that falls in. That will help you maybe gain some clues and clarity as to how this may be showing up for you if it's not obvious yet for you in your life. And when we're able to be aware of where it is in our birth chart, it helps us see the patterns easier, right? So Libra not only rules the one-on-one relationships, it also rules personal values. What do I find to be important? What is valuable to me? What is something that is worth devoting my time, my energy, my effort, and my resources into? The other part that Libra rules is balance and harmony, and how we approach or create harmony in our lives and within our own being. So these patterns that are coming up, these subconscious, unconscious, shadow kind of aspects, if they're not dealing with the one-on-one relationship realm, they could very much be dealing with our personal values or this inner harmony and how it is that we have or have not been maintaining or creating this inner harmony within ourselves. So this could be relating to your health, to the way that you relate to your body, to the food that you eat, to the environment that you live in, to the work that you do in the world. Everything is a relationship. And remember, Libra rules the scales, right? The sigil of Libra is the two scales and balance. So that concept of balance is something that can be applied to anything that we engage with in our lives. So look to where you have been trying to balance the scales, right? And how that has or hasn't been working for you. Okay. So the other thing to mention with this is that this eclipse is ruled by Venus, which is currently in Scorpio, which adds an even deeper layer of that that shadow kind of primordial, dark, feminine energy. It adds a deeper layer of like being willing to deep dive and to investigate and to go into the depths of our psyche and our being to find the answers. Going into the deep memories of the past and into the deep emotions that we may not always feel comfortable experiencing, right? And this Venus in Scorpio is in a beautiful grand water trine to Saturn in Pisces and Mars in Cancer. So this is a very supportive time for us to be going into these watery emotional depths, to be going into these kind of darker shadow aspects. But because we have the sun, the moon, and Mercury there in Libra, it brings a sort of lightness and a capacity to traverse and move through these dark spaces, these dense spaces, these shadow parts of our being with a little more ease, with a little more grace, with a little more lightness, and perhaps a little more fun than we're used to. Okay, so at the full moon that's accompanying this new moon in this lunar cycle is extremely powerful. And if we think back to April 8th, what was happening in April? There was something that was opening up for you. There was some new way of being. There was some new way of expressing. There was some new part of your life that is the Aries ruled part of your chart that was opening up. And this full moon is coming to a culmination point of whatever was beginning and opening up for you back in April. There should be some feeling of resolution, of completion, of an apex of energy where it's like you've reached the top of the mountain and you can see where you've come from behind you and where you're going to in front of you, right? And it's very important that we consider all of these things moving forward, because as I said before, in January, the nodes of fate will be switching from this Aries Libra axis to the Pisces Virgo axis. And the danger with this new moon and this cycle that we're opening up right now, this 6-month cycle until the nodes change signs in 2025, the danger is an unwillingness to look into the shadow, an unwillingness to do the deep diving, an unwillingness to confront the disharmony that may be happening in our one-on-one relationships, in our personal values, and in our inner harmony and balance, right? So if there's a huge possibility, depending on your birth chart, depending on your personality, and depending on where you are in your process, that there could be a tendency to want to just shut your eyes and ignore the whatever may be coming up for you at this time. That is one of the shadow aspects of Libra, right? Is shutting your eyes to the discomfort or to the disharmony so that you don't have to experience it or see it, and you can pretend like it's not there and just float right along. And there is a huge potential for that at this time, as I say, depending on your personality and kind of where you find yourself. The danger with that at this time is that in January, the North Node will be moving from Aries into Pisces. And what do Pisces and Libra have in common? What they have in common is this tendency to kind of wear rose-tinted glasses and to not see clearly the disharmony that may be happening, especially in one-on-one relationships. Pisces, just as Libra, has a tendency to overextend, overgive, and self-sacrifice to a point that is quite detrimental, okay? So if you find yourself at a point where you are ignoring the issues in your relationships, where you're ignoring the issue in your environment, where you're ignoring the issue with your health, where you're ignoring the issue with your finances, right? You're ignoring the issue that is coming up for you in your life. If you're ignoring it, if you're not dealing with it, if you're not kind of taking it head on, this could be something that just ends up simmering and brewing into a whole other kind of mess that could lead into even more kind of codependency, overextension of the self, and self-sacrifice in a way that's quite unhealthy once the North Node moves into Pisces. So that is something to just be mindful of and aware of as we move into this space. That this next 6-month cycle with this eclipse is kind of kicking off, okay? So the energy that is being initiated here at this new moon is something that will be reverberating out over the next month very intensely, and over the next 6 months in a more gradual, progressive kind of way. And it's important that I think it's very important that we bring both that energy of Mercury and Black Moon Lilith together. That combination of that frontal lobe, cognitive, reasoning, masculine mind with that brainstem, subconscious, unconscious, irrational, kind of very like instinctive or deep emotion-based ways of being and feeling and expressing and experiencing, that there can be a bridge between the two, and that if we are able to bring both of these aspects of our psyche together and have them work together, it can create a lot of clarity, a lot of potential for growth. And it just comes down to us being willing to see the patterns that are coming up for us in our lives. So pay attention to what has been unfolding in the past couple days leading up to this eclipse. Pay attention on the day of the eclipse of what is coming into your body and into your mind. This is a very introspective energy that requires a little bit of stillness and contemplation in order for the messages to come through clearly. Now, another thing that's worth noting is that between this new moon and the full moon, we will be having Pluto stationed direct. So Pluto is currently retrograde at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and on October 11th, Pluto will be stationing direct and beginning the process of moving very slowly forward again to move back into Aquarius for the last time, where it will be staying in Aquarius for the rest of our lives and for many, many generations to come. And that will be happening on November 19th when Pluto moves back into Aquarius. But this is a very interesting thing to note because it adds even another layer of this kind of shadowy 8th house, dark feminine, Plutonian, Scorpionic energy that is so prominent with this new moon. It adds another layer of that energy that is something that we're working with, because as planets are preparing and slowing down to station retrograde or direct, they gain a certain amount of energy. And I believe similarly on October 9th, we also have Jupiter stationing retrograde in Gemini. So those two planets that are going to be changing directions are going to be, interestingly, they're Jupiter in Gemini, again, that kind of mercurial frontal lobe, cognitive part of the brain, and Pluto, that brainstem, back, instinctual, emotional, energetic imprint kind of part of the brain, right? So again, this bridge between these two aspects of our psyche and the ways that we can use our mind is so activated during this time. So it's a great time to spend time in contemplation and meditation, to journal, to draw, to go on a nature walk, to light a candle and just sit with yourself, right? I think this is a time where the more that we can create space for the bridge to be built between those two parts of our brain, the better results we will have. If this is not a time for us to be kind of pushing through, over scheduling, over planning, or trying to just fill our schedule up with lots of different activities or demands or requirements, right? I'm not sure if I'm using the right words here, but you don't want to overbook yourself basically during this month of October, okay? It's a really important time to create that time and the space for this kind of metaphorical bridge between these two parts of our psyche to be built. This is something that is very abstract and that happens in the kind of energetic and multidimensional realms of our being, and that requires time, that requires space, that requires silence, that requires a little bit of unplugging from the kind of mainstream or like normal part of our 3D reality, right? So, you know, if you're able to take some time off, if you're able to give yourself some blocks of time during your week that are just free, if you're able to make getting into nature a priority, and these are all ways that you can work constructively with this energy and have hopefully fruitful results. Okay, so I hope that this little breakdown and message was helpful for you at this time. My books are currently closed for the foreseeable future as I am 9 months pregnant and about to be giving birth any moment now. So for the next several weeks, I will not be taking clients. However, I will be returning to doing personal readings, to doing natal birth chart interpretations, one-on-one shadow work sessions, which are beautiful containers for deep vulnerability and radical transformation, where we use your birth chart in conjunction to honest and open conversation to create a sacred space where my role is to use astrology and my intuition to be a mirror and mirror back to you yourself, so you can see yourself more clearly, so you can perceive your shadow, and you can walk out of the session with clarity and understanding about who you are, why certain self-sabotaging patterns have happened the way that they've happened, and how you can move forward with your life with more autonomy, joy, and love, right? That's the point of the work that I do. So thank you so much for being here. If you made it all the way to the end, if you enjoyed this, I encourage you to give the video a like, subscribe if you feel so called to. I would be honored to have you be here and be part of our little corner of the internet. And I'm sending you all so much love. I hope you're doing well. Best of luck.